So the CDC created a new dashboard to monitor COVID wastewater, and ultimately I've got to give it a mixed review. So they give us a hazard index for how prevalent COVID is, and then they give us a national trend, and then you can also look at regional trends. However, right off the bat, when I went to all results, I was like, oh, that's weird. They cut it off at 2022 and then go to the present time. So I was like, I gotta check this. Yep, I'm right. The National Wastewater Surveillance System was supposed to have started collecting data in September 2020. So my first question is, why are they not reporting all of the data for all time when you type in all results? And then if we look at the number of reporting sites, in addition to the percentage of the country that these cover. So for those familiar with BioBot, these would be the non-BioBot sites, as BioBot runs about 400. Now Verily maybe is taking that over, and then they would be controlling the 400 from BioBot theoretically. We don't know any of the details of the contract or what's going on with the negotiations, just that maybe it's resolved. Nonetheless, moving from our current understanding, these would be the non-BioBot wastewater sites that previously we did not get any adequate data from, and it covers a population of 119 million from approximately 35% of the entire US. And for the wastewater facilities that were messed around with in the contract dispute between BioBot and Verily and the CDC, little three-way love triangle, well, hate triangle. But for those ones that are now back online, it will take about 6 weeks before they start posting that wastewater data here. So the CDC should now be posting all of the wastewater data, as opposed to just showing us what the contractor BioBot was doing prior, or that's what was being done prior. So when this was pretty much all we had for those 1,000 whatever wastewater facilities, this is definitely a huge step up. However, if your baseline is comparing it to BioBot, we're missing a good 1.5, 2 years of data in what the CDC is showing us, in addition to it's not as thorough and detailed. So a definite step up, but not where it needs to be yet. Next, let's talk about the severity index, and right now it's telling us we're at a high severity index for COVID. So essentially what they do is they take a baseline of COVID values nationally or locally, theoretically, depending on the situation, and they categorize this as being 1.5 standard deviations away as a minimal level, 3 standard deviations away as low, 6 standard deviations away as moderate, between 6 and 11 standard deviations away as high, and then greater than that as very high, where this baseline is the 10th percentile of the log transformed concentration data within a specific time frame, where they recalculate baselines every 6 months, excluding sites with less than 6 weeks of data. So I think this is something. I don't like it. This is what it would be like if I had a twin that it was identical. I do have a twin, but not identical. Anyway, so the first thing is that our baseline levels are increasing each year, and this is the baseline level of COVID that we have in the population. So while this would give you a relative severity index, which is what I think is what they're going for, our baseline should be an absolute baseline as opposed to a relative baseline, and the absolute baseline should be based off of first year non-wave values, which would be a low to no population level because that should be our target goal. The fact that this is increasing after every wave and after every year for our baseline makes it so that we're normalizing the fact that we think it's okay that there's that much COVID in the population when it's not. And that also means that the severity index won't be able to be compared between years, because a severity index for this 6 months time period is going to be different from this 6 month time period. So for example, if we set our baseline value in this wave right here, which is our from the winter to 6 months into the year, and did the method that they're proposing here, then this January to June value, the baseline would be very high. It would be something like maybe right here. So it would make it seem like everything's super mild, super low when your baseline is high. And if you have a high baseline and you have low variation from that baseline, or low increases or decreases from that baseline, then it's sort of misleading. So I really don't like this relative scale change thing that they're doing for a severity index, because it takes away from the fact that the goal should be low to no COVID in the population. So it should be an absolute index. It would be better to just do something like a wastewater concentration segmentation value and address severity categories to that. The fact that there wouldn't be a historical retrospective categorical severity comparison, I think would also be very detrimental. And the fact that it's normalizing whatever the quote unquote baseline is for a 6 month period could make it so the baseline's like super high, like in this 6 month period. So then you'd be like, oh, we're at low levels of COVID from the baseline, but it's a high baseline. So you're actually at high levels of COVID.